one of the best games of the year, probably the most fun I've had watching a game this year. Number 12, Oklahoma beats number 3, Texas, neutral field in Dallas, 34-30 on a last-minute drive. A truly remarkable game. A lot to take away from this, a lot to unpack. Dave, before I get into my Texas takes here, what was your main takeaway from watching that game?
Well, we hit on it a little bit today, Ari. I think two things. I think we have to take Oklahoma seriously as a national championship contender, as a team that last year was a blip on the radar. And also, Ari, with some hours to think about it and kind of look at it, the Oklahoma fans are going to come for us on this one, but Texas was probably the better team today and lost that game. The turnovers, the red zone issues, all of that stuff comes out to me as a troublesome thing from Texas, that they're going to be kicking themselves that they didn't win that ball game. But ultimately, we didn't know what to make of Oklahoma. I was cautiously optimistic of that team coming into this game. And as long as they were not even just competitive, but they pushed Texas and didn't lose by 10 or 17 points, I was ready to take this team really, really seriously. And they did that. And I am now. I think Oklahoma is a team that certainly now has the inside track to the Big 12 championship, but has a mulligan in its back pocket to get to the playoff.
Yeah, so everybody is like, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? Everybody knows that I have tied my
Ari,
life
are you
raft
okay?
to the Texas cruise ship, and I don't feel like the Titanic happened today. I think it was two very good teams playing a good football game, and my thought process of Texas as a playoff team didn't necessarily mean that they were going to go undefeated. It also didn't mean that I thought they were the best team in college football, and sometimes good teams lose to good teams. So, when you want my tears or you want me to react, I guess now that we're in a playoff scenario for them moving forward, they cannot lose again no matter what.
Yeah,
that makes it more enticing week by week to follow Texas football, because
we still need a Texas
sudden death
playoff bet, Ari. We still need a playoff bet of some kind.
Yeah, the odds decreased a little bit today, but I do think that it's hard to beat the same team twice in the same season.
Yeah,
and I do think that these two teams will end up playing each other again. I think that the thing that we talked about Texas all year in the preseason for the first month of the season, all of those discussions were about whether or not this team can avoid losing a catastrophic game to an overmatched Big 12 opponent. Losing to a team that you're favored by 7 against in a neutral field in a rivalry game in which you turn the ball over 3 times doesn't fall into that same category. So while disappointed that they haven't put themselves in a position to really control their own destiny and give themselves one of those losses to overcome, because now there's no margin of error anymore, I don't think that this loss embodied what has made Texas disappointing in the past. So we'll see what happens. But if you go look at the stats, they played pretty well. I thought that there were some bad turnovers. One of the turnovers in the red zone got made up a few plays later when they blocked a punt and landed on the ball in the end zone for a touchdown. So you don't necessarily get to count that. But I thought Quinn Ewers played well. I thought their skill position players played well. I think that maybe this game says more about how we didn't take Oklahoma seriously enough, more than it does that like Texas stinks or they're the same team that they've always been.
Yeah, I think Texas, you say it's tough to beat a team twice, but I think there is a case to be made that while Oklahoma is very good, Texas beat Texas today, and maybe Texas can beat Texas again at some point later this season. I think I do think that's true, and I also don't want that to be perceived as taking something away from Oklahoma, because I do think Texas is going to be kicking themselves. But I came away from this game really, really impressed with Oklahoma, and looking at Oklahoma a lot differently. We've been alluding to it on the show for a couple weeks that we were kind of like, all right, Oklahoma, okay. And then today, they kicked down the front door. And as our colleague Chris Vanini wrote, Oklahoma's back.
Yeah. If you go look at the Oklahoma schedule remaining, UCF, Kansas, Oklahoma State, West Virginia, BYU, and TCU, they should be undefeated in the regular season.
I had West Virginia fans coming for me today for suggesting that OU and Texas are playing again in December. Am I crazy for just sort of not taking them seriously?
Well, here's the one thing I will say about
I don't buy it yet,
your take is you are somebody who is basically assuming that Oklahoma and Texas are playing again, right? In the
I said
same.
probably. I'm not saying it's
Okay, because
guaranteed to
it
happen,
seems like
but I
you're
don't.
generally assuming it,
If one
but in the
team
same
crashes the
breath saying,
party, I don't buy that that's going to be West
okay,
Virginia. That's all I'm
you
saying.
can't just assume that they're both going to play again while also assuming that Texas is going to screw it up. So it's like you got to pick one. And if you think that Texas is going to lose another game by not showing up to a overmatched opponent's house and sleepwalking, then we can't assume they're going to play again. But I think that Oklahoma is probably a double-digit favorite against every opponent that they have remaining on their schedule, regardless of where it is, for the remainder of the year. And I think that, like here, listen, this is listed as a topic of conversation here on the sheet. Is Dylan Gabriel the best quarterback in the Big 12 to you right now? I think that, I don't know, it's a big question, but it's maybe something worthy of being asked. I don't know.
I think I'd still take a healthy Jalen Daniels, and I'm not sure
Yeah.
OU will be double-digit favorites at KU. That probably is a primetime game. I mean, Kansas is still sitting there at 5-1. They might be 6-7-1
Texas
when they
was a
play
16.5 point favorite against them. So
yeah, but that was in Austin, and I mean, you might they
it's
might
not going to be an
I mean,
8-point difference because of where it is.
Maybe,
and it's not like Kansas is the most intimidating place to play.
That's true, but I wonder how much Vegas had, how much intel they had on the Jalen Daniels situation too.
Yeah.
Ultimately, like Jalen Daniels is the guy that gives Kansas a chance to beat a lot of teams, including Oklahoma. Whether or not he can do that, time will tell. But yeah, you look down the schedule. Oklahoma under Lincoln Riley seemed to have one or two games where Spencer Rattler would have a tough night or the offense would struggle. And we'll see. I don't know that Oklahoma really has their identity under Brent Venables yet. We haven't really seen them. But you look down the schedule, I mean, there's not a lot where you say Oklahoma's going to need an A game to win that game. I mean, you can show up with your B plus, and you're going to Dallas again at 12-0.
Yeah. I mean, both schedules, if you go look at Texas, they're playing Houston, BYU, Kansas State, who forgot how to play football on national television on Friday night, TCU, Iowa State, and Texas Tech. I think that theirs is marginally more difficult, but I think both teams should be able to win the rest of their games, thus setting up a rematch in the Big 12 championship game in their final year in the conference, and away we go. So I thought that it was just one of the best games of the year. The game never disappoints. Both coaches were in their bags. They had some of these laterals on kick returns. They had really interesting play calls. They were going forward in interesting situations. Like, I just thought that, if coaches prepared, I don't even know if it's possible with the amount of hours in a week, but if coaches prepared every week the way that those two teams prepared to play this game on Saturday, it would be a hell of a time to watch college football. And let me just say this too. I mean, Quinn Ewers took a lot of heat in the regular season, or in the off season for maybe not being that guy. And I'm seeing some of those comments now in the chat. I mean, 31 for 37 for 346 yards and a touchdown, 2 interceptions. One was deflected. So I think that I'm hoping that we'll see these two teams again. And I think it's possible that it'll be another playoff game heading into the CFP selection show the day after. And it's going to be a hell of a time. And hopefully I'm in Vegas like I was last year for it. So